first one, then you could still go, right? This is because once you start uncovering things you didn't know, then it's like, okay, we're going down the rabbit hole here. There's a lot there. But we're going to ask you to share, because part of the processing will be to hear other people, because other people are going to be sharing some of the similar things, if not exactly similar, and they might have some realization you didn't have. We need a microphone. And the reason we do sharing, number one, we can learn from one another, and it's so valuable to hear. And the other thing that we learn by sharing is that we're all the same. We all have male bodies, we're conditioned souls, and we're challenged with the same thing. And as I said yesterday, it's really valuable to know others have the same problems. In a weird way, it makes you feel good to know that the guy next to you is as bad as you are. And it really makes you feel good when you find out he's worse than you are. Okay, so who would like to share? Yes?
Hare Krishna. Just go through all of them?
No, you don't have to. It's more like, it's better to share your like overall realization or one thing, whatever stood out for you. Yeah, we don't need you to share everything. Whatever you want.
So, like I was saying, I gave myself different scores for respecting others and desiring respect. So I think in terms of respecting others, I am like a 7 maybe. And, because I'm polite with them and so forth. But I may not always honor their desires or wishes. So that's why it's not a 10. Yeah, so I'm not good at doing what would make them, to be respectful to them. But in terms of being disrespected, I think I gave myself a 5. Because, I don't maybe actively expect respect, but I don't like to be insulted. I don't like somebody to disrespect me when I have not disrespected them. So I'm not actively seeking it, but I don't like to be disrespected. I guess I'm trying to extract respect from people by the way I'm acting or talking with them and so forth.
Yeah.
Especially senior devotees or peers, like friends at that level.
We have a question in our humility workshop. When you show up, what do you want people to believe about you? It's really interesting. Like, as soon as you walk in this room, and all these other devotees are here, something may go off in your mind as to what you would like them to think about you. Isn't it? It's an interesting question. And then the next question is, why do you need them to believe that about you? Because you don't believe that about yourself, most likely. And then the next question is, and who do you need to believe that about you? Like, who do you need to impress? Why do I need to impress this person? They're all very interesting questions about how the ego works. So you're hinting at this.
I failed to mention my wife also in that. That is definitely a component.
Oh yeah, thank you. You wanted to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So it's only like one of us who could speak. The other partner did not get a chance.
3 hours for the first exercise.
But it's pretty similar, like you said, So he was able to share his observations, and he gave himself a score of 7 out of 10. He's mostly respectful towards others, but he feels that he needs to improve upon his desire to be respected by others, more on that. And what he does to get that respect is...
Hey, wait a minute. It's okay? He says that?
It's okay, I'll make sure too.
Don't share.
It's actually more uncomfortable hearing it from someone else. Yeah, this is really a really potent exercise here. And thank you so much. Helped me, I think I went through it 4 times and it changed each time.
Got worse? Did it get worse each time?
It got, well, in the end, it ends well. But my feeling is that as a person I find myself to be respectful. I try my best to have good manners, to talk to people, to be present, to listen. But I expect respect back in a certain sense. So the realization that he helped me get to is that I need to be less worried about what other people are thinking about me, less worried about the respect that I get from the world around me, but still be as respectful as I can be and just be in control of my own words, my own direction. But really, really nice.
I want to give you a little secret.
Yeah, good.
If you respect yourself,
Mhm.
you won't need it from others. And we need it. There may be, anyway, it's a thought. I'm not saying it's true for everybody, but there may be some lack of self-respect, which is causing us the need to get respect from others. Because if I'm lacking it, there's a gap, and then if someone else can fill it up instead of me, so then I'm searching for it. I need it. I was thinking this morning when I was walking to the temple. I was like, if I'm full of bliss, eternal, and knowledge, then I'm like the happening thing. I'm the best thing on my block. So why? I'm already like way cool. So why do I need anyone to like? What can you say about my body that's like gonna be better than my soul? Anyway, so it's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. The soul is amazing. Turn to the devotee next to you and tell them, you are amazing.
You are amazing. You are amazing. No, you are amazing. No, you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. The most impactful thing about this exercise for me was remembering one of the lectures that I listened to in Russian language, and Guru Maharaj was talking about the brahmachari life at the ashram, and he is encouraging that the brahmacharis would work so hard all day long serving in the ashram that by the end of the day they barely have the strength to come back to their bed, and sometimes fall next to their bed. So this may be a very, very far-fetched concept for the Western world here. But we were talking with Prabhu here that to avoid, one of the questions was what can we do to improve our situation, is if we involve ourselves as much as possible in the life of the temple, doing all the service, or as many services as we can, then we will have less time for TV and waste activities that are wasting time, and be absorbed more in Krishna consciousness. Hare
And
Krishna.
you'll also be too tired to be proud. Yes! Because of that big energy. Thank you. Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. The part about what can you do to improve, we both realize that we have a lot of anger,
Oh.
rage, and my answer was, how can I do to improve, is to not be too reactive to what someone says, like to sort of like hear them out, like for them to get to the end of the sentence and then react. And then especially when it says, but what are the obstacles to wanting to improve? The obstacles would be, while listening to this person, like trying to not tell myself like, nah, he's lying. Like he doesn't believe what he's saying. He's just saying these things. I just want to get to my rage. So at the end, it's like, for me personally, it's like the improvement is so hard, because even if this person gets to the end of the sentence, I'm still like, I've made up my mind. Like they could say one thing, and then already I'm like parashuraming them, you know? So
I have some, Jalavan, I had an experience that I would often look at other devotees and make assumptions about them, you know, just because I didn't see them in the morning program or whatever, you know. They're not wearing a dhoti or they don't wear tilak or whatever. And what I found over and over again is all of those devotees are way more sincere and way more advanced than I thought, and like way more, not just a little. So I think if you want to make an assumption, it's always good to start with the assumption that this person is sincere, they're Krishna conscious. And at least what they're saying has validity, at least to them. You want to get married?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you want to get married, your wife is going to say things that have absolutely no validity to you. You won't even understand why she's saying it. It's out of your universe, Venus and Mars, and you're going to have to sit there and realize this is important. I don't know why this is important to her, but I can see it is, and I have to be able to hear it. So that's one of the great things you learn being married, is to like listen and empathize with something that in your world is not important, it doesn't make sense to you, but you can understand it makes sense to them, and that's all that matters. That, maybe you don't want to get married now. Yes, all the men, do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's a lesson. So it's for them it's important, not for you, but you're just you. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Who else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So when we discussed a couple of points is same point, same question. What you can do to improve? One thing it came about is first we need to understand what needs, what is the real basis of the whole problem. So I think that's what we try to understand. What causes it? What is the real basis of it? And then what obstacles you face. One of the things we discussed is it's the peer pressure too. You see, everyone wants to go for it, and we are being, whether we like it or not, or to survive or something, we are also pulled in.
You're being looked at and judged.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a book. The title of the book is called "What Other People Think of Me Is None of My Business." That's something to think about. And did you come up with a why you need the respect? An answer, or you're still thinking?
That's what I'm trying to get out of him. So, going ways and ways. So I didn't get the correct answer. So I asked him to speak. So I thought he will be speaking for himself. Like, he was just talking to me that anyhow. It was a good application.
I think it is anartha. I took it as anartha. It's a pride, it's anartha. It's itself is anartha. It must to identify itself is a big thing. Otherwise, sometimes we go on unknowingly. But first to identify it, and then to see what is the fueling the anartha. That's what we thought.
It's what Prabhupada says. I think it's good to understand. Well, you distinguish between appreciation and pride, which is it's different. The Prabhupada says in the Gita, it's a form of sense gratification. That's a simple end. Why do we want it? Well, it's like, why do you want to eat chocolate ice cream? It's like, that's clear. I know I want to eat it. This is a subtle form of sense gratification, but it's much higher. And it's Mukunda told, where are you, Mukunda? And he told me something amazing. This is like, I never thought of this, but it's in Prabhupada's books. Can I say it? He said he noticed that when he became celibate, his desire to be recognized went off the charts. Isn't that interesting? You curb, because Prabhupada said sex, pride is subtle sex. So you give up sex, now the pride is being activated because you were fulfilling it in another way. That's really interesting, isn't it? Anyone else have that problem? Maybe you, maybe you haven't, you didn't realize it. I never thought of that. So it is a high form of sense gratification, and that's, Prabhupada, the words, the gratification of being honored. The gratification of being honored. Wow. Anyone else? Maybe one or two more people? Yes.
This was such an amazing exercise.
one theme that came out for us on how we can improve and not we often are in situations where we may get appreciated for our service is practicing more gratitude for whatever we have as a result of a lot of devotees around us, a lot of people around us. So if we are constantly in the mode of being grateful to devotees and people around us, we won't let that stick to us and it won't turn into pride. Just practicing more gratitude may be a way to shield ourselves from developing pride.
Yeah, and that's a form of respect. So, if it's real respect, it should be. Because some of you said I'm respectful, and I thought that's culturally ingrained, but it may not be spiritual respect. There's a difference. You know? So it's something to think about. You said I'm respectful. Like, oh yeah, you're Canadian. They're all respectful.
Don't be so sure. Yeah.
They're all respectful. But it may not be respect that's going to counteract the need to be honest. Yes, who's next?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a nice exercise. It's an opportunity for me to look back and reflect on myself. I'm going through certain things. So there are different stages of being a devotee. One is a beginner stage, where we like to learn from others, see how others are doing many things, like maybe kirtans or lectures and so on. And the other stage, intermediate stage, and advanced stage.
Yeah.
Like intermediate stage is like that's where I struggle and maybe I could say I struggle too. That's where like now again start now that we know, now that we learn, right? So trying to showcase maybe this come why I'm not doing this, I should be doing it. So maybe that's where I need to work on. And, other things maybe sometimes.
You know one problem in the beginner stage? I can demonstrate it. I'm leading kirtan. And I'm chanting Hare Krishna, but inside I'm chanting, look at me, I'm so sweet, I'm so cool, look at me. You know, no one sings as well as me, and I got cool melodies. That's a big one, isn't it? And you can do that with RT, look at me, Did you taste the offering today? You know who made that offering? So it's like the essence of pride is it's directing attention to us instead of Krishna. That's really
Yes.
We had one more point we talked about that was really nice. Sometimes we want to showcase like we are humble. That's also like no, we are egoistic of being humble.
I want people to think I'm humble.
I'm proud to be humble.
That's the paradox. When you walk in the room, what do you want people to think? I want them to think I'm humble. Okay, whatever. Yes.
Well, one thing that I thought of after you and I had our exchange, to build up self RESP, ECT, is stick to something. Like if you want to be respected, and to respect others too. Take up a project, stick by it. I was raised on the farm, and we learned, you spend 8 hours a day working in the field.
Yeah, right.
Just stick it out,
Yes.
get it done, then you feel really great at the end. I accomplished something, because we live in a day, a time, where there's so many distractions. We're just skittish, we're here or there, we're all over the place. And I think it's very hard for respect to develop in that kind of a lifestyle. Just some observation.
And also, because of social media, you get to see other false images of people that seem happier and better than you, which makes you feel even worse about yourself. So, I'm spirit soul, I'm auspicious, I'm blazing, amazing, transcendental, lots of respect. Do you want to say
There's
something?
a question you mentioned earlier, and you didn't go into it, but you mentioned that if we respect, you said this is a secret, if we respect ourselves, we'll be less dependent on others for respect. So I'm also thinking if we respect ourselves, we can respect others more.
Yeah, yeah.
So any tips on how do we respect ourselves?
It came up yesterday in the sexual purity. Before I forget, I have a course on sexual purity for anyone's interested. And I have a course on humility and self-care and other things, and it's online. And if you remind me, I'll write it down here. Or do you have a WhatsApp or something? You send everybody something?
Yeah.
You can send an email to everyone.
Yeah.
Send a PowerPoint.
Okay, so, yeah, so it's really difficult to have self-respect when you set your goals beyond when you can achieve. And when you do that, your goals actually talk to you. So I set my goal here, I'm here. You know, when I became a devotee, I was here. But now I'm here, but this goal is here. So in between here and here is all this shame and guilt and everything because I feel I should be here. So this goal basically is talking to you saying, loser, you know, your God brothers are up here, look at you. So you set this goal, then there's comparison, because you're way far, so the goal is telling, you're allowing the goal to tell you something's wrong with you. You're a failure or whatever. You're looking at your God brothers that seem to be way more successful. You don't look at the ones that aren't successful, just the ones that are more successful. So then you're comparing yourself to them. And in that state, it's very hard to be self-accepting. And society is, the last one, which we don't have time to do, which is a big one, is your self-worth is tied to your performance. So as men, you know, women, their self-worth is just about relationships, basically. So our self-worth is tied to performance. So what have you done? You know, like, how many disciples do you have? You know? You'll say, well, I don't have any. All right, that's one thing to be miserable about, right? But I'm a guru, but I only have a few hundred, so I can be miserable about that. Right? And if you want to be miserable about something, you can figure it out, right? How many books have you written? Well, I wrote 10, but this devotee wrote 20, so I'm a loser, you know, and just on and on. So I wrote a Vyas Puja offering this year to Prabhupada, and in it I was dealing with something which we all deal with, which is I cannot do for Prabhupada what I would love to do because I'm just not smart enough or capable enough, and he deserves better than me, and this is what he got. He's like, sorry Prabhupada, you got me. So that was what the offering was about. In the end I said, but I can give you the best of this, I can give you the best, because I can't give you better than what I am. So I think it's like we do an exercise in the humility course or the self-care course where you partner up with someone and you just say, it's a weird exercise for devotees, but you say, what do you like about yourself? What do you like about yourself? Some people, they can't even do it. They don't like anything about themselves. So you start saying, well, I like the fact that I'm good at this. All right, you know, I can give a class or whatever it is. Just like Sri Prahlad, when he gave that class, Prahlad, he's a professor, he's been a professor for a while. And it's just like, if you analyze public speaking, I don't even know if he's conscious of what he's doing, but he's doing all the things you should do, the pauses, you know, it's like Gopal Hari also. So it's like, what was I saying? I lost that. Someone help me.
Tips to improve self-respect. How? You said how to.
The last thing I said before that.
Yeah, what you like about yourself.
Oh yeah, what you like about yourself. So Gopal Hari or Sri Prahlad could say, I like that, you know, I like to study, it's very easy. I remember, you know, I like to teach, people like the way I teach. He could come into that exercise being depressed about how he's like, can't play baseball and he, you know, his mridanga playing is not as good as Madhava's mridanga player and he can't chant like Padava or something. But once you say that, it's like, oh, Krishna gave me these gifts. I'm really happy he gave it to me. And the other thing that you can do is, I'm happy that I became a devotee. Thank you, self. You decided to become a devotee. Give you a big hug. That was good. Right? So you can go down the list and start to see the good things you like about yourself, and someone might say, Prabhu, you're very respectful. And you could say, yeah, I like that I was raised to be respectful. That's a good thing. So, but maybe the biggest one, Krishna accepts you as you are. So my little mantra is, if I'm good enough for Krishna, I'm good enough for me. Yes. Like, how could you not accept yourself if Krishna accepts you? That's like the paradox of the universe, isn't it? Yeah. So, it's really, I think, I was just discussing with some devotees, when you become a devotee, there are so many psychological problems you have to deal with that you may not have had to deal with before, because now you're dealing with this very high level of what you have to be. And if you are already feeling bad about yourself, you're really going to feel bad about yourself. And so we need to know how to deal with it. Don't we? Yeah. So, let me tell you something, Newton, was crazy. When I was doing the self-care course, we had a section on how Krishna loves you. And I sat down and wrote 20 affirmations. I don't know where they came from. It was like after I wrote them, it was like, oh my God, who wrote that? And then I recorded them. Went in my studio, had some nice music, and recorded these affirmations, and I was listening to them. For 4 days, I was completely intoxicated, I swear. I was like, oh my God, Krishna loves me. He loves me so much. It was like all that non-acceptance was gone. Because if you accept Krishna's love, then all that I'm unworthy, unlovable is like, it's gone. You don't even have to do anything else, just accept that. So that's really the essence of self-acceptance. Accept his love. He loves you. Prabhupada said Krishna loves you even if you don't love him. And if you think Krishna doesn't love you, I have this to say, it's not for you to decide if Krishna loves you, it's for him to decide. So don't decide against what he decides, because he already decided he loves you, and so who are you to say he doesn't? That's an offense to him, don't you think? I think it is. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Well, we have a situation. We could stop sharing, or we could just share for another 40 minutes, and we could try to kind of do the next one. What do you want to do? Because I can come back for the next 4 years and do one each year. Because, it takes time to process this.
Is that a commitment you're making to the bench?
Well, I give a class on vows, and I know how to say it without making a vow. So, the problem is, I travel a lot, so I can't just decide because I have family. So it's not that far from Lazarus, so it's kind of easy to say yes.
Do you have to do them in order to analyze them?
No.
Should we do number 5?
Yeah, number 5 is good. Okay, one more comment, and let's do number 5. Because number 5, I think, is the biggest one. At least for me it was. Okay.
Hi Krishna. I think this is a fitting topic in conjunction with yesterday's. Like yesterday was gross sex and today is subtle sex.
Good point.
But as the discussion was going on, I thought I was somebody that gives a lot of respect to other people. But then as I started doing more service and I started to interact with more devotees, I found myself more critical of devotees. And then I realized that I was just around people that I respected a lot, and then thought I just respected everyone, and then realized that, I don't actually respect everyone, I was just only with people I respected. And I think also the point you brought up about cultural respect versus spiritual respect, culturally, even though just culturally, but personality-wise, I'm not super confrontational. I won't maybe outwardly disrespect somebody, but I'll internally feel it, and it doesn't, for spiritual life, it doesn't really matter in one sense if you're internally still feeling disrespectful because there's still backed by ego.
Yeah.
So could you maybe speak a little bit about how to cultivate spiritual respect for others?
Well, I think you brought the point up, criticism. Because criticism is disrespect and pretty much on steroids. Isn't it fun? Looking at everything wrong about the person instead of looking at what's good. So respect is seeing what's good in them, and disrespect is seeing what's bad in them. And there may be many reasons we disrespect them and criticize them, but that's some soul searching for us to do. But one of the reasons is we want to put ourselves above them so we can feel good about ourselves by pushing them down. And the others maybe we're just like personal frustration with ourselves. We're not happy. Because I always say drunk people don't criticize because they're happy. It's only when you're, like, in your life, when you criticize the most, when you're most miserable, generally, isn't it? When you're happy. You're in the middle of kirtan, you're jumping up and down, you're criticizing everyone in the temple. You're eating malpura and sabji with sour cream. Yeah, you know, I mean, you could criticize the cook if you're a cook. But generally, criticism comes from a point when we're down. Somewhere on the internet, I could post it if you want. I have a sheet of the reasons that I think we criticize, like 30 reasons. It's good for reflection. But criticism is, whenever I criticize, a red flag goes off in my mind. It's like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's bothering you right now? Like, why do you need to do this? Are you feeling like insecure in some way? You might need more respect. It's good to think. Let's do the last one, because the last one is, it's the one that hit me the hardest. And we'll try to finish by one. We have to finish by one. Oops. Let's do it this way. This is number 5. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Gil Haribol, if you're ready. Okay. Many men are conditioned to believe that their value comes from their accomplishments and the symbols of status they acquire, career, success, wealth, physical strength, or the admiration of women. This can make their ego fragile, being dependent on external validation. Women seek self-worth more relationally. They seek to be understood or emotionally seen rather than seek status. Success, and it was hard to find quotes for this because when we were searching this, the Prabhupada doesn't use, so we had to kind of stretch it. But we all know what this means because we live it. Since success in bhakti is defined by one's effort and sincerity, not by one's results, we can all be successful despite apparent failures. In other words, for us, what? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Can you go back to the last slide?
The idea that's being explained here is success in bhakti is our effort. It's not what we produce. So that's why I had that picture of Prabhupada on the boat. And factually speaking, if you look at results, at this point when Prabhupada's walking on the boat, just objectively, he's a failure. Right? At this point, he's a failure. What does he have? What has he done in India? Total Krishna's arrangement that he was a failure, because if he wasn't, who knows when he would have come? You know? And what would have happened? So, if success were only defined by the number of temples, that's basically what I'm saying. I'm saying Prabhupada's walking on the Jaladuta. Who is he? He's like, he's got 3 books to his name. Right? That's it. Failure. Of course, Prabhupada wasn't thinking I'm a failure. And Prabhupada thought, you know what Prabhupada thought? He said, it doesn't matter if I fail. I just have to execute this order. That's my success. That's how he thought. I'm successful. Right now, I'm on the boat. Everything else that happens, it doesn't matter. This is my success. Now, we get on the boat and we think, I wonder what I'm going to do. And we go there and nobody joins and we come back to India and we cry our way to, just like a failure. And Prabhupada didn't think like that because he didn't have that kind of ego. The sign of one's spiritual advancement is not the big position one has. The real sign of advancement is how how humble and how tolerant one has become. That's from Bhakti Swami quoting Prabhupada. Let me read that again. At the end of this, we're all going to say, wow, because this is a wow. I wonder what he said. This is a Jai-worthy statement. Maybe we should just say, at the end, say, Jai, this statement is Jai-worthy. The sign of one's spiritual advancement is not the big position one has. The real sign of advancement is how humble and how tolerant one has become. Jai! Now we can say, wow! Wow! Don't you think that's a wow statement? Yes. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably, without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. Nectar devotion, the Paribhasa Sutra of Nectar devotion. I put it there just because you don't do bhakti for recognition. You're not supposed to. So now I'm the temple president, I can go to Mayapur. Now I can feel like I have worth, isn't it? And I was thinking when I was doing this, I think the real worth that we feel should come from pleasing our spiritual master. And that is totally different. It's not ego-based at all. If he's pleased, then what more do you want? Prabhupada's pleased, what more do you want? What did Prabhupada say? In spiritual life, sincerity is the first qualification. It's not academic qualification or financial strength which helps in the matter, but it is sincerity of purpose which helps us always. So, self-worth tied to sincerity. What examples did Prabhupada set? He didn't use devotional service to achieve anything material, which would include boosting how he feels about himself. I want to come to America to feel good about myself. No, it's not why he did it. My business failed, I'm a failure, I got to do something to feel good about myself. He didn't come to the West to prove himself better than his God brothers so he could feel good about himself, but to fulfill the mission of his Guru Maharaj. Pure love of Krishna satisfies one on the deepest level, so one will not feel a lack of self-worthiness, even though feeling unworthy to serve Krishna. So it's like, they're two different things. One is a spiritual state of consciousness, I feel unworthy, and one is a psychological state of consciousness, of feeling unworthy. They're different things. It's hard to understand the transcendental state, because we're not there yet. But a pure devotee generally feels, I'm not worthy of serving Krishna, of his love and all that. So here's the grading scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being never tying accomplishment with status, and 1 being always tying accomplishment with status, discuss with a partner the answers to the following questions. Why you gave yourself the score, how this problem commonly shows up in your life, what you can do to improve in this area, and do you have any resistances to deal with this problem? What obstacles you might face in attempting to improve, and what you can do to deal with these obstacles. And anything else you want to discuss about this? And we have 26 minutes. And the last time we had a lot more. Anyway, so I think, let's see if we can do it like 6, 7, 8 minutes each partner. Is that possible? We can try it? Okay. Yes?
Is the word really status? It's being tying accomplishment with self-respect, isn't it? That's because the outside world gives a status according to what we accomplish.
Maybe it's both. Yeah. Let me say, never tie accomplishment with status. Yeah, you can, yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's, yeah, maybe self-respect is better. Self-respect, yeah. However you want to answer it is okay, whatever relates to you more. I think I just tied status to self-respect. Like it's kind of like the same thing, but I mean, I should have said status. Yeah, anyway, it's a good point. Okay, let's go.
Yay.
Market 7.
Then we
Does anybody need more time? Okay, so we're going to share again. Who has the microphone? Okay. So, who would like to share? Was that enough time? You want to go longer? Because I've just been granted more time. Anyway, you have the mic. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Haribo, Hare Krishna. So, one of the things that we both came up with was gratitude. And the thing I'm realizing is if I did this exercise like in my 20s, I think I would put a much higher score. It's because with distributing books and doing programs and things, more optimistic I think I was. Like, it doesn't matter the results so much, you know, we're doing so much wonderful work, but since getting married, having a kid, and then a lot of like money, you know, people depending on me, it's like, I have to produce, and if I'm not producing, then if I'm not producing, who's suffering because of that? It's not just me anymore. It's if I don't win, somebody is, in a sense, failing. That's how I'm kind of like framing it. So it's like, if I'm not able to, I guess I'm just saying again, produce. It's putting those who are depending on me in a rough spot. And we were talking about gratitude because nobody's in a rough spot. We're doing fantastically well. There's no problem whatsoever. But there's still this like this fear of losing, fear of like not having enough. That's, you know, then I start to feel like I failed, like I'm just a failure, a loser. So it's hard to overcome that for sure.
Yeah. Well, it may not be exactly where we're going with this, because you're also talking about duty. And if you didn't provide and you didn't feel like a failure, that would be a problem, right? Yeah. So, but you're so you're a failure, but you tried your best and you can't do any better. You got fired from your job, you have to sell your house because there's no money, you're a failure. But at the same time, you're doing your best. And you're just as valuable as you were before. So it's almost in a sense two different things. Because you definitely are responsible. So I don't know if that helps clarify it, but it's more like, yeah, of course, if you're married to the wrong woman, she'll make you feel like a bum, right? If you feel like that, and that doesn't help. You know, you ever heard this story? Prabhupada said in India, the wife he was driving by and there was a husband and wife living on the street and she was cooking on the sidewalk. And Prabhupada said, she is so devoted that even though her husband has nothing, she's there living with him on the sidewalk, cooking for him. It's like, wow. So if you have a wife like that, you won't feel like a failure. She'll probably just be like, yeah, you tried your best. But our society will call that a failure. So anyway, I don't know if that helps. Something to think about. Because there's a lot of people making us feel like failures. Like back in the old days, right? If you say, well, I like this devotee, what has he ever done for Prabhupada? Like your whole value is based on what you've done. And if you haven't done much, you don't, well, he should be the temple president. What has he done? You have to be an amazing leader. But so we're dealing with that, and it's just good to be aware of it. But how that can affect us, because it could make you feel like a real bum, a loser. Yes. Gopal Hari Dash.
Prabhu, one question that came up is, we have some statements in our scriptures which the acharyas have said that seem to connect accomplishment with status, or kind of contrast Prabhupada's statement that real accomplishment is how humble and tolerant a person is by itself. Because, like Prabhupada, one place he says that even the animals in the forest are humble, so it's not just about being humble, but also we must serve Krishna. Or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the number of books and the number of devotees and temples you open, that's how you know the advancement of a devotee. So how do we?
Well, it was more specifically, wasn't how many devotees you've made because you know the advancement because you just show up and people become devotees. Isn't it more like that? Isn't it more like your status in Krishna consciousness will show up in the fact that your people are being influenced by your presence, your words, which is a little different, maybe?
Well, the quote is, as far as I remember, he says, that he mentioned the number of books, and devotees by that one can understand.
I think, but the context, he's juxtaposing with his God brothers, isn't he? Like, to make the point that
yes.
I'm empowered by Lord Chaitanya, and the result is temples, books, devotees.
This was a statement by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
Oh, okay. But other places probably
yeah.
said that. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Because that's what my guru wants, and when I do this exercise, I think, well, my value comes from doing what Prabhupada wants. Right? If I do what he wants, then whatever the result is, I tried my best. Isn't that ultimately what Prabhupada wants? There's a letter that Prabhupada wrote to Tejas, and unfortunately I couldn't find it, which addresses this point, because Tejas, do you know that letter? Tejas was like, he was in anxiety, because everything was not going well, and he wasn't doing well externally, and Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter. I just give you this service, just to keep you engaged. So it was like contrary exactly to that quote, because he was in a place where he was falling apart, because he couldn't produce results. So it's like, what do you do as a spiritual master? Because you want to inspire your disciples to produce results, because you're here to save the world. At the same time, you don't want them to think that results equates their level of Krishna consciousness just because so it's a balance. So like when Braj Vihari showed that video, it's like, well, what else does it mean? I thought, well, that's like a perfect thing. Prabhupada said this. What else did he say? It's like a perfect question. What else did he say about this? So I agree with you, but at the same time, there's the other side, and it has to be balanced, is it? Because I can say as a spiritual master, I'm sure Bhakti Marg Swami also, you could destroy somebody if it's like, why are you getting no results? Why, this? And another thing about Prabhupada is, if you study his letters, you can see like what was reported to him. He was always very encouraging. Prabhupada, we made one devotee this year, and we BBT published one book. Thank you very much. So he would always have to encourage, because I think he knew we would be easily discouraged, and we would think we're failures. And then that letter Prabhupada wrote to this brahmachari. He was a disciple of Prabhupada's godbrother, and that brahmachari was thinking of coming to America to help him. And then he said, well, I have to ask my Guru Maharaj. And then his Guru Maharaj said, no, Prabhupada's effort is ludicrous. He's not going to be successful. You know that letter? Yeah. So he writes to Prabhupada and says, your effort is ludicrous. And then Prabhupada writes back and he said, no effort in the service of Lord Chaitanya is ludicrous. He said, we're just soldiers in the field, the results up to Krishna. So you have that also, right? So I think it's a balance, because you have to, because that's our philosophy. It's up to Krishna, but it's like bring the Queen of England and like the opening of the Mayapur temple, so you have that, distribute more books, double it, and so your Guru is so pleased when you perform. But that letter to Tejas, it's like if you could find it, I couldn't find it. But that letter to Tejas, it answers, because he deals with that. He's so discouraged because he wasn't producing results. So thank you for that. That's a good point. But the whole point of this is you produce the results, so you think, okay, I'm Krishna conscious, and we saw that so much in our early days. You know, our sadhana was horrible, our japa was horrible, but we produced results. And then we thought, I'm the man, I produce results. Producing results equates being spiritually advanced. And so, I would say a lot of us produce results not just to please Prabhupada, but to please ourselves, to feel good about ourselves, to have a position so I can walk around Mayapur and go, oh, Maharaj, you're somebody, right? And when we got older, it was like, I want to be nobody. I'm like sick of being somebody. But when you're 20, you are not sick of being somebody. That your whole life is about. You know that joke, when I was 20, I was worried about what everyone was thinking of me. Then at 45, I stopped thinking about what everyone was thinking about me. And then at 65, I realized nobody was thinking about me. So kind of, humility does come with easier. But status is, when you don't have any status, and you have a movement that's looking at you and judging you by status, it's not good. So then you want to produce, to be somebody. So when you walk in the room, you're somebody. Who wants to be nobody in this room? Like you just walk in, nobody knows you, they don't know what you've done. You want to be like, I want to do something this year, so next year when I come here, you'll go, whoa. I read about you for ISKCON News. They're all like really happy, and like in a couple of years I can give a class here. That's like high point of my life, the mantra retreat, give a class. And then when you get older, it's like somebody else give a class. So it's so much trouble, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, that was a nice class," and it's like, just leave me alone. I don't need it anymore. We see that very much when we were younger. It's like really, results were not just purely service. They're connected to prestige. Anujama, you want to say something? You want to share your realization? Or is it too late? We have time. I want to hear from you about this.
Realization is about which aspect of all the deep topics that we talked about.
This last one.
Well, in our partnership, I mean, the scale threw me off, but as far as like measuring myself against accomplishments, it's like way up there. Like 8 out of 10. My whole life was like that. And just hearing you say it, I think also there's psychological factors that play into that. Our experience with our parents and, all that. I mean, thinking back once, since she asked me, it just popped in my mind. When I was a kid, my parents were relatively affluent. My father bought me a go-kart, which was super cool. And a friend convinced me that we should take it apart. So we took it apart, and my father came home from work, and like it was all over in the garage. So his response was, you're never going to figure it out. Put it in the box, because you can't figure it out, and I'm going to have to take it to the shop and pay a lot of money to have it fixed. So that sent, in hindsight, sent such a powerful message. You are incompetent, etc. I had a couple of experiences like that. So I don't know if psychologically that makes me think you got to measure yourself against what you can achieve to like prove that you can achieve something. But probably it's a piece of it mixed in with the whole culture. But I'll just say that this realization, sometimes I definitely feel, and my wife tells me all the time, I don't know where this quote comes from, it's a great quote, but that comparison is the enemy of joy. I'm not sure who said that, somebody famous said it. And I think sometimes I definitely sense like, okay, like, I don't know, you've got 4 books or 6, I have none. You have 200 disciples, I have none. I mean, I can, compare, blah, 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 till you're crazy. So sometimes I just think, I'm complete junk. I like that Christian thing, like there's something in that poster, the bumper sticker, God don't make junk. I think that's great, that's really inspiring. Sometimes when I'm really feeling the pressure of why I'm doing so little, achieving so little, I think, well, actually I am of very little value, or I'm junk, But then I remember, but I'm Krishna's junk. You know, I can't do anything, but whatever I can try for Krishna. I can offer it. I have nothing of value, but I can still give it to Krishna. Like that one wonderful lecture where Prabhupada started crying. He said, when we serve the deity, what am I? I'm nothing. I have this rotten flower, but please, it's all I have to offer you. And you can hear him start to cry. You know, I think that's such a refreshing.
You know what's so interesting? It's like I am junk can be the expression of like almost depression, if not even suicide. It's also the highest expression of humility. Because if I'm junk, Krishna, then you make me into something. That feeling I'm nothing, you make me into something. It's like very high realization. So it's so interesting how they're so close, but they could be so far apart. Do you know that one devotee said to Prabhupada, I feel valueless. And Prabhupada said, everyone has value in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada, I think here's a super important point that's so concerning to me. Prabhupada never made anybody feel valueless. It's coming from us, it's not coming from him. He always made us feel good about ourselves. Well, thank you for doing, you know how we'd say, thank you for distributing my books, and we'd be like, no thank you, Prabhupada, no thank you, I couldn't do this alone. So I'm very happy, look at all the letters, I'm very encouraged by what you're doing, please continue, this pleases me very much. I think he was very conscious that we could easily go down. And so I find it so interesting how he was so encouraging, and still, in spite of that, we can be so conditioned to think something's wrong with us. When he didn't think that. And he was thanking us.
Sometimes I think that, you know, that at least in the West, the Christians kind of beat us to this expression, but really it's our expression more than theirs, which is God loves you. You know, they talk a lot about, you know, you start with that. You know, you're drinking, you're smoking, you're this, blah, blah, blah. Jesus loves you. You know, that's where they start from. You have value in God's eyes. It helps redeem a lot of people. But really, it's we understand that to a much deeper extent than they do. You know, that he loves you so much, he comes back with you again and again and again and again, and he never leaves you as Mahatma, etc. So it really is our ethos. You know, Krishna loves each and every one of us.
What about this? You know the story of, what's his name? Peter Putra? Is that his name? Anyway, he's a sannyasi. You know, a French devotee? I don't remember. From France. What's his name? You know, that French devotee? Peter. Anyway, he took sannyas, and maybe Krishna's not letting me remember his name to protect him. He took sannyas, and then he left Krishna consciousness, became a drug addict and a drug dealer. And then he got married, and his wife knew he was a devotee, but didn't know anything about it. And then he died when he was young. And she went to the temple. And she said, who is Prabhupada? And they said, why do you ask? He said, well, my husband, when he was dying, he said, Prabhupada, you have come. So what to me that says is, any little service you've done, Prabhupada's there, he appreciates it. We don't think like that. We think we have to be, right? We have to be somebody great and Prabhupada's going to appreciate it. And we don't. You know, I was just reading and Prabhupada said, I have great hope in all of you, and thank you very much that you can carry on this movement after I go. This movement is Prabhupada's baby. You don't think he's like so grateful for those who were like pushing it on and sacrificing and, you know, flying on planes and going out and, you know, it's like, come on. And so I think that's important to recognize. Especially what you're doing. I have no doubt when you meet Prabhupada, he's going to be thanking you over and over again. And you know, like when Gopakumar goes back to Godhead, Krishna says, I know all your struggles. I know everything you went through to get here. So Prabhupada knows. Yes?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Based on what you said?
Can this be the last question? Just because. Yeah.
And it's kind of in line with what Prabhu was mentioning. Because it's beautiful to hear this idea like God loves you, Krishna loves you, and that you're
your achievements or the results of whatever you're doing is not doesn't have any play on who you are, right? But it seems like in our philosophy is, and we've talked about this a little bit, that I feel like myself and a lot of devotees I speak to get so down that to this idea of like going back home, back to Godhead is just not